When it comes to over-the-top action, few names hit harder than Duke Nukem. From his humble 2D beginnings in 1991 to the groundbreaking 3D mayhem of 1996, Duke left his mark on gaming history. Packed with wild weapons, cheeky humor, and unforgettable one-liners, these games defined a generation of PC players. Today we're diving into some of the most fun and surprising facts about the original Duke Nukem and its legendary sequel, Duke Nukem 3D. Let's kick ass and chew bubblegum, and you know the rest. While Doom may have introduced Deathmatch, Duke Nukem 3D cranked it up to an entirely new level with its own spin, called Duke Match. Instead of just blasting each other with rockets and bullets, players could shrink their opponents with the shrink ray, freeze them solid with the freezer gun, or even set off devastating pipe bombs for hilarious kills. Chaos wasn't just about who had the fastest aim, but also who could use Duke's crazy arsenal in the most creative and ridiculous ways. This made multiplayer sessions unpredictable, over the top, and unforgettable. For many fans, Duke Match wasn't just competition. It was pure comedic mayhem that kept them coming back for more. The very first Duke Nukem didn't come out of nowhere. It was heavily inspired by the games and heroes of its time. From Commander Keen to Super Mario Bros., Duke's side-scrolling levels borrowed the tight, structured design of the best platformers of the early 90s. But Duke himself, he was a mashup of pure action hero energy. His cocky attitude and tough persona echoed Hollywood icons like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone, the kind of one-man army stars who defined the 80s and early 90s. Even his nemesis, Dr. Proton, leaned into that over-the-top James Bond-style villainy. The result was a game that felt familiar, yet fresh, blending platform and precision with the explosive personality of action cinema. One of the things that made Duke Nukem 3D stand out was its constant parody of pop culture. The game is packed with hidden jokes, movie references, and cheeky one-liners. Duke famously borrows quotes straight from Evil Dead like, "Hail to the king, baby," turning him into a mashup of every over-the-top action hero from the 80s and 90s. Players could spot parodied movie posters, nods to Terminator, Die Hard, and even science fiction classics scattered throughout the levels. This self-aware humor gave the game a rebellious, tongue-in-cheek personality that set it apart from darker shooters of the time. It wasn't just about the action. Duke Nukem 3D wanted you to laugh while you played. One of the quirkiest things about the original Duke Nukem is how its visuals weren't entirely original. Keen-eyed fans noticed that some sprites looked suspiciously similar to graphics from other PC games like Mega Man and Turrican. It wasn't uncommon in the early 90s for developers to take heavy inspiration from existing titles, and Duke Nukem definitely followed that trend. But the community didn't stop there. Fans began creating level editors and even releasing custom map packs, the most famous being Duke's Next Adventure. Some were even sold for a small fee, keeping Duke alive long before official sequels arrived. So Duke Nukem wasn't just inspired by other games, it inspired an early wave of player-made content that shaped gaming culture. What really set Duke Nukem 3D apart was Duke himself, especially his voice. Actor John St. John gave Duke his unforgettable gravelly tone, packed with over-the-top one-liners inspired by action heroes like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Clint Eastwood. Phrases like, "It's time to kick ass and chew bubblegum," and "I'm all out of gum" became instantly iconic. These quips weren't just funny. They gave Duke a unique personality that made him stand out from the faceless shooters of the era, helping turn him into a pop culture legend. Did you know Duke Nukem almost had a totally different name? When the game was first in development back in the early 90s, the working title was actually Heavy Metal. But Scott Miller, the founder of Apogee Software, felt it just didn't pack enough punch. He wanted something bold, something that would instantly grab attention. That's when the name Duke Nukem was born. Duke, to evoke raw strength and toughness, and Nukem to suggest explosive, unstoppable power. It was short, memorable, and perfectly fit the over-the-top action hero we know today. Without that simple but genius name change, Duke might never have become the iconic gaming legend he is now. When Duke Nukem 3D released in 1996, it was powered by the revolutionary build engine created by Ken Silverman. Unlike earlier shooters with flat, simple maps, the build engine introduced sloped surfaces, destructible environments, and interactive objects. For the first time, players could smash glass, flip light switches, or even flush toilets, tiny details that made the world feel real. These innovations gave Duke Nukem 3D a sense of immersion that was unheard of in its era. It wasn't just about blasting aliens, it was about exploring a world that felt alive, pushing the boundaries of what a first-person shooter could be. Here's a wild one. Duke Nukem didn't always go by that name. When the game first released in 1991, Apogee soon realized there was already a character called Duke Nukem in the Captain Planet cartoon series. To avoid a potential legal battle, the studio quickly changed the spelling in version 2.0, calling him Duke Nukem instead. But fans weren't exactly thrilled, and it never felt quite right. Later on, Apogee confirmed that there was actually no trademark conflict after all, so they reverted the name back to Duke Nukem, permanently cementing it in gaming history. Imagine if the legendary hero had stayed as Duke Nukem. It just doesn't hit the same, right? When Duke Nukem 3D launched in 1996, it didn't just grab attention for its gameplay, it also stirred up major controversy. The game was filled with violent shootouts, gore, and suggestive humor, including strip clubs and risque NPC interactions. At the time, this was shocking for a mainstream release. Some retailers even refused to stock the game, citing its sexual and violent themes. But rather than hurting sales, the controversy only fueled its cult appeal. Players loved how unapologetically outrageous it was, pushing boundaries and cementing Duke as the ultimate anti-hero of the 90s. It was bold, brash, and completely unfiltered. That's exactly why fans couldn't get enough. Back in the early 90s, Duke Nukem wasn't just a fun platformer, it was a sales phenomenon. Apogee released the first episode as shareware, meaning anyone could play it for free and then pay to unlock the rest. And it worked better than anyone expected. In 1991 and 1992, Duke Nukem became the best-selling shareware game of its time, even outselling the legendary Wolfenstein 3D, which was considered the benchmark for the genre. This success proved that shareware could launch a franchise into stardom, and it set the stage for Duke to become one of gaming's most iconic anti-heroes. Who would have thought Free to Try would take Duke Nukem this far? And that's a wrap on Duke Nukem's wild legacy. If you enjoyed these facts, don't forget to like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more gaming history. Hail to the king, baby!